Hello and welcome to a Wednesday live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination and consume everything all across the grid. I am Ben Stevens. And let me be the last to wish Donnie Rightside a happy new year. DRS and I together for the first time in 2024, as I had the day off yesterday after a wild day in the college football playoff semifinals on New Year's Day. I was working, Donnie, on January 2nd, 2024, just in the early morning hours as we ended our college football playoff in-game live primetime that took us all the way to 1 a.m. Eastern. It is the last day you can officially wish somebody a happy new year. So, Donnie, happy new year to you.
And away we go on the early line, and a lot of stuff to get to as usual. But just as college football winds down, the NBA starts to heat up, the NFL playoffs, college basketball conference play begins here with a lot of these conferences finally dipping their toes in the water. So a lot of stuff to get to here to get the people primed and ready for a great 2024.
A lot of ranked teams in action yesterday in college basketball, and the best player in college hoops at the moment, Caitlin Clark, shows out, of course, for Iowa. But a marquee matchup in the association, two of the four best teams around the NBA. Boston, the NBA's best from the Eastern Conference. On the road last night in Oklahoma City, OKC entered with the second best record in the Western Conference. It was back and forth in the entirety of the second half. But Donnie, the Thunder, pull off an outright upset at home, winning 127-123. Oklahoma City booked as a 4-point pregame underdog.
Yeah, nice little dog win there by the Thunder at home. As you said, they got up 127 on the board. And again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 36, 6, and 7 was tremendous. But how about the performance for Jason Tatum, which was great, and also Porzingis chipped in with 34 points. This is the ceiling that we see here, Ben, for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The sky's the limit for them if they could just stay healthy and play on the court. As we welcome in the radio audience, you're watching and listening live. January 3rd edition of the Early Line. Ben Stevens, Donnie Rightside, kicking it around with the 7-7, getting your 2024 started off in style.
Absolutely so. Donnie, Jason Tatum last night, 30 points, 13 boards, 8 dimes, did everything. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander firmly in the MVP race around the association, 36 big ones to pace all scores last night in Oklahoma City. The Thunder now 23-9, Boston 26-7. The C's retain the best record in the NBA, but Oklahoma City 9-3-1 against the spread as an underdog this year. They won 8 of those 9 games that they have covered as a dog outright. Joel Embiid back on the floor last night for the Philadelphia 76ers. We had not seen JoJo, Donnie, since even before Christmas, and he returns with a triple-double for Philly. The Sixers is a 10-point home favorite against Chicago in the city of brotherly love. Knock off the Bulls 110-97.
It's pretty hard. Like, sometimes you worry about scoring 25 points in the first quarter and having a good quarter here. How about being up 25 points after the first quarter? That's what the Philadelphia 76ers were yesterday. Tacked on another 6 points onto that lead by the half and coasted in the second half all the way through with Joel Embiid back on the court. The MVP of the NBA making a case for another one, 31, 15, and 10, and an easy victory for the 76ers over the Chicago Bulls.
I mean, you return to action and you do that, a 35-point triple-double for Joel Embiid, even getting involved in the facilitation of the offense in Philly. The Sixers now, Donnie, in terms of covering the number this year, as a favorite, not many better in the NBA, 19-6 against the spread. For teams that have been booked as a favorite more than 10 times this year, nobody better than the 76ers. Now we go to college basketball. The number one team in the country in action last night on the road in College Park as conference play around college hoops firmly underway now in a new year in 2024. In the Boilermakers of Purdue beat Maryland last night, 67-53, Donnie, on the road. Purdue covering is just a 5.5-point road favorite.
Yeah, yesterday I talked about this with Joe Ranieri, how Maryland probably would struggle to score against a Purdue team that's really efficient on defense. And if you can't shoot the three-point shot and you love to get to the free throw line, but a team like Purdue doesn't let you get to the free throw line, that's what you get. 19 first-half points, 53 total points in the game. Purdue an easy victor over Maryland.
Jameer Young is trying. He had a game-high 26 points for the Terrapins last night, but a 9-5 start for the Terps. We'll go all around college basketball, including in the women's game. There is no better player, man or woman, in college hoops right now. No bigger superstar than the one that resides in Iowa City. Caitlin Clark, the buzzer beater from the logo against Michigan State last night inside Carver Hawkeye. A 40-point performance as Iowa holds off Michigan State, Donnie, last night in Iowa City, 76-73, a 40-point performance, the 10th of her college basketball career for Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, it feels a lot about like Allen Iverson, right? I need the ball in my hand. I can break down anybody on the court, shoot the lights out from all ranges here, which included last night's buzzer beater from the logo in a big-time victory. The NCAA better realize what they have in Caitlin Clark and really start to press that button down, because come tournament time, yes, we love March Madness, but nobody's going to be upset if Caitlin Clark makes a deep run in women's March Madness this March as well.
Absolutely so. Now to the National Football League as week number 18 is on the horizon. It starts with 2 games on Saturday, the regular season finale. It was a disastrous year for the New York Jets, but if you go back 5-6 months, the offseason was full of optimism. They got Aaron Rodgers. He brought over all of his friends from Green Bay, and they added Dalvin Cook right as training camp began. It felt like there was an offense getting ready to go nuclear in 2023. Not the case. Aaron Rodgers injured, and yesterday, Donnie, the final parting of ways with Dalvin Cook as well. The two sides, Cook and his representation, agreeing with the Jets to part ways at this stage, entering the final week of the 2023 NFL regular season.
Hey, I got some things in common. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player living, probably at this point now, right? You take a look here at the NFL with Aaron Rodgers. You know what they both have in common? Yeah, great players on the field, horrendous general managers. I mean, come on now. You gave $10 million to Dalvin Cook, who had 67 carries for like 67 yards and no touchdowns here because you were a good friend and thought that could put you over the top. Man, the Jets, come on now. Sometimes you just got to laugh, Ben.
And we forget, Donnie, Dalvin Cook entered this year with 4 consecutive Pro Bowl seasons in the NFL, 4 straight seasons with more than 1,100 rushing yards. What a disaster it was for New York. What a disaster it is in Charlotte. David Tepper, as his Panthers took on the Jacksonville Jaguars this past weekend, at the end of the game appeared to throw a drink on a fan. He has now been fined $300,000. Chump change for Tepper, but what a disaster the Carolina Panthers, with the NFL's worst record at 2-14, were this season.
That's what happens when you're an owner. You get upset. You meddle in the draft pick. You end up with Bryce Young because that's who you wanted here when everybody else wanted C.J. Stroud. He's going to be an MVP candidate in a couple years. You have no first-round pick. Nobody's going to want to be your coach next year. And now you're $300,000 lighter in the pocket here. That's a tough start to the new year for David Tepper. And 2024 for the Panthers, not looking that great either.
And they have no first-round pick, but a first-rounder declared for the NFL draft yesterday. Georgia's sensational tight end, Brock Bowers. He's going to be a top 10 pick. Around the association, up next, live right here on the Early Line.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl. The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back! I'm laying the 14.5.
And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning where they cover, they went outright.
There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top. Rocky Top, Tennessee.
So, am I just a side better now?
I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
The irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Around the Association, live right here on a Wednesday morning, the third day of a new year in 2024. I am Ben Stevens. He is Donnie Rightside. A marquee matchup last night in Oklahoma City between the Thunder, who have the second best record in the Western Conference, and the Celtics, who have the best record in all of the NBA, of course, atop the Eastern Conference as well. A sensational basketball game, back and forth, really for the majority of it. OKC uses a big third quarter. Boston responds in the fourth. It comes down to the wire, and the Thunder hold on for its 23rd victory of this season. 127-123, knocking off the C's last night in OKC. Donnie, the Thunder winning outright as a 4-point home underdog.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this last night, too, because you take a look at two teams that you figure are going to be there at the end. But the one thing we know with the Boston Celtics, they have the metal. They have the superstars. They're expected to win a championship. But every year we take a look at Oklahoma City, Ben, and say to ourselves, what is their actual ceiling? Can they be this good? Because over the past 2 to 3 years, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander experiment has just been just odd to start. It's like, ooh, we know he's really good. But if we let him play more than, one basketball game a week, it's going to ruin our draft status here, which allows you to pile up superstars like, Chet Holmgren and get them on your team. But now you're seeing the effects of he's healthy, he's ready, we'll pay him, we'll pay anybody else. We're sort of landed the plane, if you will, that this team is going to be a playoff contender now, and we're not looking to tank and just get draft picks and see what we can do in the future. And you see last night the fruits of your labor, beating the Boston Celtics, 23-9 on the season, 14-5 at home. But this is one of those teams that maybe like the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Denver Nuggets, as we know, have, multi-MVP in, Nikola Jokic as your superstar. But hear me out on this. When the Denver Nuggets get to the playoffs, even last year, seen this before, Ben, right? Good basketball team in the regular season, maybe can't get it done in the playoffs, and they did. Now we're going to have those same questions about Oklahoma City going are they really as good as what we've seen in the regular season? Are they ready to take the next step? But games like last night against the Boston Celtics show you they're probably ready, Ben, for that next step.
Yeah, it seems like it, right? Regular season, even in early January, very different than where things are in April, May, and of course, potentially in June for an NBA Finals matchup. And we'll look at the odds in just a moment. Because where does the NBA stand at this point, and when will those odds, if ever, start to reflect some of those up-and-coming teams in the Western Conference? Because the Nuggets right now, one of the 4 best teams out west, they're the reigning NBA champs, but the teams expected to contend in the Western Conference are not Minnesota and Oklahoma City, who have the 2 best records in that conference at this moment. If you see OKC as a home underdog, take them. If you see Oklahoma City as an underdog, bet them. 9-3-1 against the spread this year as an underdog. 8 of those 9 covers, an outright victory. Really because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a game-high 36 points last night to lead Oklahoma City. Jason Tatum in response, 30, 13, and 8. But SGA is evolving, Donnie, not just to that up-and-coming guy who is going to be a factor to put up 30-plus each and every night, but a legitimate MVP frontrunner where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finds himself right now.
Yeah, and you take a look at that starting lineup, a lot of young guys in there trying to work together and, get better on the court and have some camaraderie. Dort, Giddey, Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously a little bit older than guys like Chet Holmgren, but everything is working its way. And then also, you take a look at the San Antonio Spurs, right? Wembanyama comes into the NBA. He's expected to be the most dominant player in a couple years. He has the weight of the city on his shoulders. Isn't it nice for Chet Holmgren to come into an organization that has a very good basketball team, took it slow with him with an injury last year, and then hits the court? And it's not like, Ben, hey, you know what? You better get out there and pull triple doubles every single night because we need you. He can find his spots in space and mature as an NBA player while doing it in that second and third cut as opposed to being the leader of his team. And it's showing here. That's going to help the maturation process for him and this basketball team. Love what I see early. Again, 23-9 on the season. Good stuff.
14 points, 7 boards, 4 blocks last night for Chet Holmgren. He's a minus 250 odds-on favorite to win NBA Rookie of the Year in front of Victor Wembanyama because, as we will share, the Spurs struggling a little bit here in 2023-24. As we look around where the NBA is, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, now the 3rd best price, Donnie, to win that MVP award at 4-1, only about $2 behind Joel Embiid, who made his return last night for Philadelphia. We hadn't seen the reigning NBA MVP since prior to Christmas, and boy, did he make a return last night. 35, 15, and 10. A triple-double to lead Philadelphia to a 110-97 win over Chicago. The Sixers were booked as a double-digit favorite at home, laying 10 in the 25th game for Philly this year, Donnie. They have covered in 19 of them as a favorite, 19-6 against the spread in those 25 games, booked as the favorite side.
Yeah, Embiid with that triple-double only needed 31 minutes to get it done. And also take a look at that starting lineup with the plus-minus. Plus 18 for Batum, Harris plus 32, Embiid plus 32, Maxey plus 24, Kelly Oubre Jr. plus 28. Why? Because they're up 25 points after the first quarter ended and cruised to an easy victory in that game. That's a nice way to bring the MVP back into the marketplace here by having a triple-double in limited work and blowing out the Chicago Bulls.
31 points, not 35, but I saw a 5 with the rebounds, and I got excited. A 30-point triple-double and be the MVP favorite at plus 210. The Bulls have been playing better basketball, by the way. Got off to a 5-14 start, entered last night winning 10 of their previous 15 games. Chicago did not cover, but still 12-10-1 against the spread this year as an underdog. The Bulls have won 5 of their last 8 games now. Out to San Francisco we go. The Golden State Warriors hosting the Orlando Magic. 121-115. The win for the Dubs last night over the Magic. They cover as a 3-point home favorite.
Yeah, good win for them out there, and this is what you're supposed to do on your home court, defend it, which only gave them their 10th home win of the season, which means they improved to 10-8, 16-17 on the season, but that's a pretty good win over the Magic. This wasn't one of those games, Ben, where 2 or 3 years ago the Magic come out to Golden State. It's a 16.5-point number. We had a decent point spread on this game, and also, if you're going to have to lean on your superstars to pick you up, Steph Curry's going to do that. 35 minutes played last night. 36 points overall, 4 from 9 from 3-point range. That was the key linchpin in that game. That's a good win for Golden State. I still don't have high hopes for the Golden State Warriors because I think that bottom's going to fall out with that aging team. But at least they're getting one step closer to 500 here. We'll see if they can put together some dubs. But the Magic are a good basketball team. Even though they're 19-14 now, they're hanging in there around the NBA.
Got off to a really strong start, did Orlando. A little bit of regression here as of late, but still 5 games above 500. The Magic did not cover a short 3-point number on the road in Golden State, but Orlando this year as an underdog, 13-8 against the spread. A rare cover last night for Golden State that, as the favored side, Donnie, entered at 6-13 ATS. Now make that 7-13 against the spread. Jonathan Kuminga had the second highest scoring output for the Dubs last night, 19 points for the young, versatile big man trying to fill a role, perhaps, of what Draymond Green does for Golden State. A superstar showdown last night in the Grind City between the Grizzlies and the Spurs. Two of the young faces, of course, of the NBA. For Memphis, it's Ja Morant. For San Antonio, it's Victor Wembanyama, who did have 20 points and 7 boards, but his Spurs, Donnie, are now just 5-28 as Memphis wins 106-98 at home last night. Ja, a double-double, 26 points, 10 dimes. The Grizz were booked as a double-digit favorite for the first time this year. They do not cover, but they do win by 8, snapping a 3-game slide.
Yeah, how about this? 3-12 at home for the Memphis Grizzlies, which is unconscionable to think about here. But again, Ja Morant back into the lineup, break a little bit of a losing streak here. Yesterday, my best bet on the show, Ben, Ja Morant over 26.5 points. He finishes at 26. Tough scene there down at the Grindhouse, but still winning a good performance by Ja Morant nonetheless.
Of course, the Grizz won the first 4 games that Ja Morant played in when he returned from his suspension. They lost their last 3 entering last night. They've only been booked as a favorite 11 times this year. Last night was their first time as a double-digit favorite, laying 11. San Antonio is 5-28 straight up. They're 12-20 against the number, booked as an underdog, a dog in all but 1 game this year. College basketball reaction coming your way up next here on TEL.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro football today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5.
And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning where they cover, they win outright. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
So, am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College football today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then, this year, give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know, they're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on a Wednesday on the early line on SportsGrid. We enter the zone as we get you caught up with the first few days of a new year in college basketball. Donnie, on the men's side, we really haven't seen all that much action because around Christmas, the guys get a few days off. They go home, catch up with the families. Then they get back getting ready for conference play. And that's the stage of this college hoop season where we have reached. We are firmly into conference action for the most part around the nation for the rest of this 2023-24 college basketball season. So firmly into conference action around the country that Donnie Rightside even considers it the real season of college basketball.
Yeah, I like this. And we're getting when I say we're getting close here, it's good to see that the conferences are starting to begin conference play. The Big Ten obviously already has a couple games in. Some of the conferences hasn't played a single game in conference play. And when we start to talk about like how the year plays out, you try to find out an identity for your team, right, Ben? From that late November through December, you get your rotations down. You say, okay, once conference play begins, and I call it like competition versus like competition. 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, no stars going against each other, depending on what level of competition you have. But you also start to see some of these teams, again, the Boilermakers having double-digit games in their back pocket. You know what they're going to do well. You know they're going to defend the three-point line. They're going to be good defense down low. Yep. They're going to be good defensive rebounding teams. But let me say this. Throughout the month of January, I'm still going to learn a lot about these teams. Once you hit February, Ben, and let's just say each one of these teams has 7 or 8 conference games under their belt, it's going to be so much fun from February 1st all the way through the end of March Madness. That's when you hit that sweet spot, Ben. We know exactly what to expect on a night-to-night basis and also how hard it is to win on the road in college basketball in most environments. It's going to be fun.
It is very difficult to win on the road. We have seen conference games already this year. In the opening week of December, the Big Ten, for instance, plays a game or two in conference action. But now it's conference hoops the rest of the way in college basketball. Winning on the road is difficult in the Big Ten, in other power conferences around the country. So when Purdue goes on the road to College Park, despite the Terps entering the year with high hopes, but a disappointing start to 2023-24, it is a testament to what this Boilermakers team has in store this year. The number 1 team in all the country, Purdue improves to 13-1 straight up this year with a 14-point victory on the road against Maryland. 67-53, the Boilers covering as a 6.5-point road favorite in College Park, and a total at 140.5 stays well under.
Yeah, this was a pretty easy handicap if you're looking from a Purdue perspective, because even though, again, we don't have a lot of Big Ten competition going head-to-head here, you sort of formulated an opinion saying Maryland likes to get to the free throw line, Ben. That's their advantage. Well, Purdue doesn't foul. Case in point, Maryland only made 6 free throws last night. We knew that Maryland could not shoot the three-point shot. Purdue would be defended okay. 5 of 22 from three-point range, 22%. They only shot 33% from the floor. That was as expected here. So if you were going to line up a handicap and say, you know what, even though we don't have all the numbers to our liking, let me just surmise what I think is going to happen. That was exactly what was supposed to take place yesterday. An easy win for Purdue and Maryland to struggle on offense, and both of those things happened.
Yeah, when you look at the Terps this year, Donnie, I expected them to finish in the top 4 of the Big Ten. So much returning talent. Jameer Young last night, 26 points to lead all scores. But Julian Reese, the athletic big man down low for Kevin Willard, an offer in 34 minutes. 0 points in 34 minutes. Some good cardio last night. 7 rebounds for Julian Reese. Dante Scott, the veteran, 8 points. They didn't really have much outside of that. And Deshaun Harris-Smith, who was supposed to be one of the best Big Ten freshmen entering this year, 2 points in 21 minutes, 1 of 7 from the floor. Some growing pains for the Terrapins, who are now 1-3, both straight up and against the spread. That included an outright victory in their previous game prior to last night as an underdog on the road in Westwood against UCLA inside Pauley Pavilion. The Bruins struggling under Mick Cronin this season as well. An all land of Lincoln and all Big Ten bash last night in Champaign between Illinois and Northwestern. Of course, the Cats are good as an underdog, but the Illini winning that land of Lincoln battle last night and doing so in a big way. 96-66 for Illinois over Northwestern. The Illini covering as a 5.5-point home favorite. Now 5-4-1 against the spread for Illinois, booked as the favorite side this year.
Yeah, by the way, Terrence Shannon Jr. out for his second straight game. You take a look at that 3-game circumstance, right? He played against Missouri. They scored 97 points. He sat out against FDU, Ben. They still scored 104 points. So coming into the game yesterday, it was like, well, level of competition obviously much lower with Fairleigh Dickinson to Northwestern. How would Illinois actually survive this game? And could they put up the same statistics without their young superstar guard? They did. 96 points they scored in that game, winning by 30 points easily over Northwestern. It's a shame because, look, I understand the circumstances. We're not even going to get into what, Terrence Shannon is accused of, what he's doing, if he's guilty or not. But when you have a superstar player about to enter in the Big Ten play and you see this type of results with this amount of scoring here, that's a big time win here for the Illini for saying, you know what, let's just shake off the media scrum around us, the answers that we have to, or questions that we have to answer without being actual basketball content on the court. For them to put up 96 points in an easy victory last night, that was pretty good for Illinois. So moving forward, maybe we can still expect a lot of offense from the Illini.
Terrence Shannon Jr. suspended by Illinois basketball after he turned himself in on rape charges in Lawrence, Kansas, coming from an incident earlier this year in September. The arrest warrant came out for Shannon. He turned himself in, was released. According to Illinois Athletics, that was the first they had really heard of any of these allegations. At the moment, Terrence Shannon Jr. suspended by Illinois basketball. Back to the basketball floor last night. Marcus Domask, the transfer into Illinois this year, 32 points to pace the Illini, a big 30-point victory over their in-state rival. Again, Illinois now has covered in 7 of their last 8 victories. Big Ten action to Big East Conference hoops yesterday. UConn, fantastic in non-conference games, struggling slightly in Big East play to start out this year. 1-1 straight up, 0-2 against the spread. Even when you're laying 23.5, if you're playing DePaul, things are going to be pretty good as UConn gets a win and a cover last night at home in Stores against the Blue Demons. 85-56, nearly a 30-point win. They cover as a 23.5-point favorite. The Blue Demons now, Donnie, this year, 3-10 straight up. They have not covered in any of those 10 losses.
Yeah, no Klingon, no problem in this game. They shot 58% from the field, which included 46% from three-point range. DePaul, on the other hand, if you're looking to get yourself back into the game, you got to make a good amount of three-point shots, Ben. They made 2 last night, which equated to 15% from the floor. So a tough night overall, but this is the UConn that we expect here. The top 5 team with a ton of talent and some depth, improving to 12-2. My question here is, we've been around the Big East and watching it for a long time. Like, I understand DePaul is a staple Midwest team out of, Illinois, but when is enough and enough? Like, do they drop down in conference? Do they decide to go the way of Chicago State and just go independent at this point? Or does the Big East just like, hey, we like that footprint out there, and it's an easy win for most teams that go cruise through there or play them at home?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to DePaul. We have seen some Big East programs struggle as of late. The Blue Demons, Georgetown in recent years, they're trying to be on the up and up, of course, with the hiring of Ed Cooley. UConn this year now 8-5 against the number when booked as a favorite. Again, it is difficult to win on the road in conference play. We saw Purdue go to College Park, win by double digits, covering as a 6.5-point favorite. Another top 10 team in ACC action last night, North Carolina on the road in the Zoo against Pitt. A double-digit victory as well. UNC winning 70-57 against the Panthers, who got off to a great start, has struggled out as of late. 0-3 now, the start for Pitt in ACC play. But UNC, Donnie, winning by 13 against Pitt last night, covering as a 4.5-point road favorite.
Yeah, grimy win there also for North Carolina. This is typically what we used to see back in the old Big East days there with the Pittsburgh Panthers. You only had shot 36% from the floor for Carolina, 29% from three-point range, which was good enough. Why? Because the Pittsburgh Panthers couldn't hit water from a boat here. 30% from the floor, 17% from three-point range, 66% from the charity stripe. That's a good win for North Carolina, 2-0 now in the ACC.
When you look at UNC, too, they've played a ton of overs this year. 157.5 was the total last night. We saw 127 points in that basketball game. North Carolina has covered in 7 of their 10 victories this year. Pitt as an underdog, now 0-3 against the number. Again, a dead under last night. North Carolina had gone over in 7 of their last 9 games entering. So other conference action, just to get you caught up on a couple of scores. Wisconsin, a top 25 team in Big Ten play at the Kohl Center in Madison. They win by 11, 83-72. Now, Donnie, we go from conference play to non-con action. Tennessee, a top 5 team in the country, against Norfolk State last night. A team that has made NCAA tournaments in the recent years. Tennessee was only booked as a 24.5-point home favorite there in Knoxville. The Vols win by 37, 87-50. That was the victory. Tennessee covers as a 24.5-point favorite.
Yeah, just playing good defense against Norfolk State. Norfolk State only shooting 34% from the floor, which included 22% from three-point range. Easy win for the Vols, who stay perfect at home on the season, Ben, 7-0.
When you look at what they bring in the backcourt, Zakai Ziegler orchestrates the offense, 17 points last night for Rick Barnes and company. And keep an eye on Dalton Connect, 15 points last night, 4 of 10 from the floor. But as Tennessee embarks on SEC play, Connect will be a name to know in that conference. Tennessee now 10-3 straight up this year, 5-4-1 against the spread when booked as the favored side. From college basketball to a short recap around the college football playoff up next here on TEL.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in Chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5.
And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning where they cover, they went out by beat. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Am I just a side better now?
I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
The irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU. because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I think this is going to be very fun. My first appearance on the early line in 2024, not the case for Donnie Rightside, but yesterday I did not have a chance to react with Donnie to what we saw on the first day of 2024, New Year's Day in the college football playoff semifinals. Let's just start overall big picture, DRS, if you wouldn't mind. This is the 10th and final year of the 4-team format in the CFP to decide a national champion in FBS college football. In the first 8 years of the college football playoff, that means 16 semifinal games, rather, only 3 of the 16 semis were decided by a single score, a touchdown or less. The average margin of victory in those games, 21.1 points per game. Donnie, in the last 2 years of the college football playoff, 4 semifinal matchups, all 4 games decided by a touchdown or less. On New Year's Day, it was the first time each of the semifinal games came down to the final play of said semifinal matchup, and the average margin of victory, only 5 points per game. What we have been treated to in the last 2 years of the college football playoff, those 4 semifinal matchups, each has been an instant classic on display.
Yes, it has been, and we looked forward to this. Like Michigan, Alabama, we knew that was going to be the game of the day, or at least the centerpiece of the day in the Rose Bowl. The perfect setup, a SEC opponent, a Big Ten opponent, blue blood programs going after it, and then you had that wild card game with 2 fantastic football teams with Texas and Washington, more of the up-tempo, and they delivered exactly what we thought we would get, a close game and a lot of points, fun quarterback display, aerial attack for Washington, some good playmaking there, abilities there for the Texas Longhorns. We got exactly what we wanted. With so many times, Ben, you wind up getting excited for something and it just doesn't turn out to be true. But you had both of those games, one in overtime, one right down to the last play. Nothing could have topped that. Absolutely nothing. I was so excited to watch, and it worked out well.
So let's start with the granddaddy of them all. Under the San Gabriel Mountains in Pasadena, history and tradition on display. The best setting in the sport delivers each and every year. That was the Rose Bowl between number 4 Alabama and number 1 Michigan. Just pregame, entering 2 of the premier programs and brands in all of college football, facing off for a spot in a national championship in the college football playoff in the Rose Bowl on the first day of a new year. I still get chills just thinking of that. Then the game itself was absolutely dynamic. The second ever overtime game in a college football playoff semifinal. Both of them, by the way, happening inside the Rose Bowl. Michigan scores on its opening drive in OT. Blake Corum, his second time fighting pay dirt, multiple touchdowns for the 6th consecutive game for the Maize and Blue. And on the final play, 4th and goal from the 4-yard line, a low snap. That was a story for Alabama's weak offensive line all game long. Jalen Milroe has to recover, runs right up the gut. He is stuffed by a staunch Michigan front 7. The Wolverines win and advance to a national championship, 27-20. They cover as a slight 2.5-point favorite against the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, the interesting part about this was the minute that these matchups were announced for the Rose Bowl, I saw the slight favorite here for the Michigan Wolverines. And I said to myself, Ben, at that time, I bet you the Alabama Crimson Tide, by the time we start that game, will be favorites in this game. I'm not talking about 6, 5, 4, even 3, but I thought they would flip over to a favorite. They didn't. Not only did they not, they flipped to a minus 2.5 point favorite for the Michigan Wolverines, as making them a stronger favorite. But as the weeks went on, I just said to myself, what's the matchup here? Michigan's really good defense and ball control offense against Alabama, which can be, sporadic at times. And they were in that game. Why? Because Michigan had a great defense. But credit Michigan, credit Jim Harbaugh, because you have weeks off, Ben. And it's going to say, okay, Saban has all that time to prepare. And it looked like, I don't know what Michigan was doing. J.J. McCarthy, who's more of a game manager, don't turn the football over. It was a horrendous interception to start the game. Now, by the luck of the draw, heel was out of bounds. They got away with that. But still, the jitters were out there, dropping punts and fielding them there, getting down 7-0 to Alabama. I was actually under the impression early, Ben, that we might see a runaway for Alabama because it looks like Michigan just wasn't ready to play. And then all the questions come into like, the Big Ten stunk this year. Now the SEC, we always know, is king out here. They're going to show their dominance. But for Michigan to make the adjustment, stay in the football game, and not break tendencies for themselves, it was unbelievable to watch. Michigan was the better football game there, and they won. And I like to see it. It was great stuff.
Yeah, we're not going to do full game breakdowns and recaps. Donnie and Joe handled that yesterday. You know the story of the game. We're going to look at the takeaways and what it represents for these teams moving forward. Michigan and, of course, Washington facing off in a national championship just 5 days away in Houston, and what was left out there by the Crimson Tide and the Longhorns. For me, Donnie, the story was J.J. McCarthy. Well over his passing yards prop that finished at 187.5, throwing for 221 yards, because J.J. McCarthy entering the game hadn't thrown for more than 150 yards in the last 4 for the Wolverines in their staunchest competition all year long. Games that included a trip to Happy Valley against Penn State, the game against Ohio State, tested on the road in College Park against Maryland, and that Big Ten championship game against Iowa. But outside of the passing yards, it was also the passing scores. 1 touchdown to 1 interception in the Final Four for the Maize and Blue. 3 touchdowns for Michigan in the Rose Bowl, including leading that game-tying drive. Only the second time in his Michigan career, Donnie, the last 2 years fully as the starter in Ann Arbor, that J.J. McCarthy has had to lead a come-from-behind drive to either win or tie a game. They held on at home last year in their second-to-last game against Illinois to survive in advance to a Big Ten championship game. Of course, no bigger spot than McCarthy to do that in the Rose Bowl. To me, Donnie, it's a clear indication J.J. McCarthy has the pulse of this team, and Blake Corum, sensational on the ground over his pregame prop of 78.5 rushing yards, finishing with 83, was huge in overtime, a touchdown as well. 25 rushing scores now for Corum this year, a receiving score for the first time in 2023's college football season. Donnie, we talked about it previewing the college football playoff last week in the final week of 2023. A minus 200 price for Blake Corum, anytime touchdown, might seem hefty to you out there if you don't follow college football, but for a guy that generally has a minus 1,000 price to find pay dirt, if Michigan's going to score, it's going to be Blake Corum. Minus 200 actually might be a discount.
Yeah, because you know what their offense feels like in short yardage situations? The Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Eagles do the tush push. All Michigan does is hand off to Blake Corum, and it's an automatic first down. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. Just hand them the football. Goal line situations, 3, 2, 1 yard line. It's going to be Blake Corum. So it wasn't a surprise there, even though it was, hey, Alabama, is there going to be a lot of scoring opportunities, Ben? There's only a total of about 44.5, 45. They might not be down there that much. They were great, and Corum was fantastic. 19 carries, 83 yards, 4.4, and a touchdown on the ground. That's exactly what you anticipated from that football team, and they delivered. You didn't get any surprises by Michigan in that game. You knew they would play really good football, and it looked like a jailbreak on most offensive pass plays for Alabama. And you can even hear during the telecast, right, Ben? Hey, this offensive line for Alabama, heavier than your average NFL team. Didn't matter. Michigan is strong on that front line, and they showed it.
6 sacks for the Maize and Blue in that football game. And that was a story all year long for the Crimson Tide, a huge concern for Nick Saban. that offensive line that allowed 43 sacks entering the college football playoff, that was bottom 20 in the country. And whether it was bad snaps consistently back to Jalen Milroe or just the Michigan front seven in his face, pretty much each and every time he dropped back to throw, it was a huge story in the Rose Bowl. So Michigan into the national championship, the number one team, a perfect 14-0. They will take on the Washington Huskies. Also a perfect and undefeated Power 5 conference champion. They will be conference foes next year. But one last dance for the Pac-12 as it got a little dicey late in the Sugar Bowl, long after Donnie Rightside was fast asleep. But Washington does hold on 37-31. The Huskies winning outright as a 3.5-point pregame underdog.
It's so much. I mean, getting caught up on the highlights here, and obviously waking up and seeing the score didn't surprise me one bit. Isn't this what we anticipated here? And Washington was the long shot of the college football playoff to win the national championship, but nobody, like everybody we were talking to here, whether it's guest or myself and you, nobody's like, hey, man, Washington, good season here, but Texas is going to be the right team here. A lot of us thought that Washington was the better side in this, and also how battle-tested they were. So many times, Ben, I talked about during the season, I am a dyed-in-the-wool Pac-12 hater for decades. When college football season started, all I would wish for, Ben, is that everybody gets multiple losses so we don't have to deal with the Pac-12 ruining our playoffs here. But this season, opening up, say, wow, look at all these ranked teams in the Pac-12, and they were every bit as good all the way through, and Washington being battle-tested, and Oregon is a wonderful football team, and they beat them twice. So respect is earned for Washington, and Michael Penix to throw for 432 touchdowns, and something we talked about all last week, Ben. Outside of Ohio State, where it's like you're used to a trio of wide receivers going pro and being dominant, we haven't seen a trio like this in a long time for Washington. And great call by you on a McMillan touchdown in this football game where coming back, he was supposed to be the number one that was injured all year. Now you get him back, and this team looks unstoppable on offense. So even as you fast forward to the next game here with Washington to play for a national championship, what a great thing. Michigan's great defense versus Washington's great offense, but I was so impressed by the Huskies on offense. They just didn't flinch all night long and kept the pedal down.
And this will be the story. A 4.5-point number on Monday night in Houston in favor of Michigan. The Wolverines booked as a favorite in every single game this year. Now that will be their 39th game, booked as a favorite in the last 3 years, of course, that have featured a run to the CFP each and every season. Their first time, though, in a national championship game. And Washington has been overlooked and undervalued by the odds makers all year long. Under Kalen DeBoer, who became the head man in Seattle at the start of 2022, Washington now has been booked as an underdog 5 times. They have won outright all 5 times. Washington has faced a ranked opponent 9 times. They have beaten that ranked opponent in every single contest. That's a perfect 9-0 mark. So you might look at Washington as the underdog, and it makes sense from an odds perspective to see the Wolverines, Donnie, booked as a favorite. But Washington is no true underdog just based on where they stand. Washington has some issues defensively. There is no better defense in the country than that of the Michigan Wolverines. Have they faced a passing attack quite like what Michael Penix Jr. and Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan and Jack Westover and Jeremy Bernard are going to bring against that maize and blue defense? No, and to me, that's the key matchup that will decide a national champion in the 2023 college football campaign.
Yeah, and Earl, again, I've been the staunchest Michigan hater this entire season, but when money is money, you start to think a little bit clear. I liked Michigan to beat Alabama this week. You know I like Michigan to beat Washington again early in the week, man? Dylan Johnson on the last offensive play goes down with an injury. Who knows how healthy he's going to be? But you know as well as I do, you need a balanced attack if you want to beat Michigan. If you think you're going to throw that football 45 times against that Michigan front line and secondary, that's not going to work. That's a devastating injury for the Washington Huskies.
21 carries, 49 yards for Dylan Johnson, did score twice. We'll update his status for the national title game. But the quarterback comparison, of course, will highlight the marquee. J.J. McCarthy, 190.5 passing yards. I already love the over. Washington, a bottom 15 pass defense in college football. And after throwing for 430, the third highest output in the college football playoff ever, second highest in a CFP semifinal ever, Michael Penix Jr., his passing yards prop against Michigan, 297.5. Caitlin Clark, the superstar she is, up next.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in Chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right
The
around.
winner of this game will be the division
I don't
favorite.
care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5.
And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning where they cover, they win out by beat. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top. Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Coach, am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
The irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is a superstar in college basketball, and her name is Caitlin Clark. You probably already know the name by now. If not, wake up from the rock that you are living under and welcome to present time. Last night, on display once again in Iowa City, a Big Ten battle between the fourth-ranked team in the country, that would be the Hawkeyes, against a sparky Michigan State Spartan squad that was booked as a 15.5-point road underdog in Carver Hawkeye, and it came down to the wire. In fact, the very buzzer. With 1/10 of a second remaining, the ball exits Caitlin Clark's hand from near the logo at midcourt. Cash. Iowa victorious 76-73 as the Hawkeyes, behind a 40-point performance from Caitlin Clark, survive at the buzzer last night in Iowa City.
Yeah, played 37 minutes in that game. Worth the price of admission because this is rare. Like college basketball, Ben, even back to like the Dean Smith days at North Carolina. Hey, you got the best player maybe to ever play the game, Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's fine. He's going to come out and he's going to share the basketball. And if he gets 12 points a game, that's good on him. That's not the case right now that's going on there for Iowa. Caitlin Clark is the show on offense all across the courts, playing as many minutes as she wants and also being an absolute phenom. And again, it's something we don't see that much, which is why it's so fun to watch. Somebody just takes the basketball basketball and says, I'm just better than you. And no matter how many shots I put up, whether they go in or not, I'm going to keep shooting here, which is fun to watch. And it's a different form of college basketball than we're used to, particularly in the women's game. But I can't wait to see this play out late in the season. We need another Final Four run out of Iowa. That's for sure.
A 40-point performance from Caitlin Clark, the 10th in her Iowa career, already her second in this 2023-24 college basketball season. Nobody, man or woman, in the last 25 years in Division I college basketball has had more 40-point performances than Clark. She's also scored 35 or more in 5 of the last 6, including in the last 4 games. That's the longest streak in the last 25 years in Division I women's college basketball. NFL news and notes as Hour 2 starts in less than a minute.